Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to be making this windy winter scene, and we're going to be using some pretty colors of pinks, purples, and blues. So let's go ahead and get started. For the focal image today, we're using this beautiful stamp set from Art Impressions, and this is called the Sledding Window Set. And this is meant to coordinate with your Shadowbox window series, and there are several stamps in this series. But today we're just going to be using that stamp. We're not going to be using that little snowman today. But it does come with a coordinating die for that snowman when you are ready to use that. For paper, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. I've placed that in my mini Misty stamp positioner. I'm just quickly prepping that a little bit just to remove any film that might be on there, since this is the first time I'm going to be using this. And for ink today, I'm using the Versafine Onyx black ink, which is a permanent black ink. And I'll press that down using my STAMPendable stamp press. And for coloring, I'm starting with Plum Gray and Plum Mist, and I'll be listing all the colors we're using in that upper left-hand corner as we're going along. And these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and we'll be using a blender pen today to do our blending. So I did want to say that a lot of the colors I'm using in today's video will be from that new Zig Clean Color set. It's called the 30 Color Set A. And I did a couple of videos on this. I did a color swatching video. I will list and link that down below for you if you're interested in taking a look at that, what colors are available. But I would have to say that the colors are more muted, a bit more on the smoky side. So again, I'll be incorporating quite a few of those colors here today. So I'm just adding that little bit of darker shadowing here. And I'll blend that out using that blender pen, and there you can see I got a little bit of color where I didn't want it. But no worries, it's really easy to remove that. You just want to grab that ink and scribble it onto your scrap paper. And you can do that as many times as you need to until you have removed all of that ink. So now I've got Cool Gray number 3, and again part of that newer series. And then for the chimney, I'll grab that Cool Gray number 6. And then I'll do all the rest of the rooftops the same way and the chimneys the same way. And just going back to the stamp set that we're using today from Art Impressions, this is part of that Shadowbox series, and there are several stamp sets in this series. And with each of the sets, you get this one piece that you can pop up in front of your scene. In this case, we have that little sledding snowman. But in all the different scenes, you have a different item, and that item comes with the coordinating die. But in order to create those Shadowbox windows, you do need the Shadowbox window die set, and that is a separate set. But I wanted to show you today a different way to use the set. You don't have to create that Shadowbox window if you don't want to, and you can still get a really beautiful result. But what I will do is link down below for you a couple of videos that I've done using that Shadowbox window. I had done a card using the Blooming Windows set and the Windows to the World set. So I'll link those below, and you can see how the Shadowbox window is assembled. It's really simple and easy. It's really fun. It makes a very, almost like a pop-up card, except your pop-up is on the inside of the card rather than on the outside. So that makes it really interesting and fun. So again, I'll link that below for you if you're interested in looking at that. And for today's card, I just wanted to do kind of a really pretty palette of pinks, blues, purples, and I again use that smoky color palette to keep it very subtle and wintry looking. And then for our background, we're going to be using a really pretty winter sky background. And I'll show you how I did this. I wanted to keep it fairly muted, so I'm going to show you a couple little techniques that I did to kind of soften that look in the background. And this sentiment on this stamp says, "Warmest wishes and a Merry Christmas to you and yours this holiday season," which is just so beautiful. But again, to change this up in another way, you could cut away that sentiment if you wanted to and just keep that center frame portion. So I feel like these Shadowbox window stamp sets have a lot of possibilities. Now for the snow, I just added a bit of the haze blue, and then I did decide to come over that with a little bit of gray, just to darken a few little areas there in the snow. Now to do the mountain tops, I went back to that haze blue, and then we'll do that sky up above. Let's go back and grab a couple of blues, the smoky teal and that aquamarine blue. And I'm going to keep it a little bit darker right along that mountain ridge line, and then I'll let it go lighter up towards the top. So next we can go ahead and die cut this out, and I'm going to be using the Art Impressions square double stitch dies. I'll use that third largest one, and that again is going to leave a beautiful stitch border all the way around. So I'll just line that up. I'll tape that down with a little bit of post-it tape, and then I can run that through the die cutting machine. I like to put a little piece of scrap paper over the top just to keep all that coloring nice and clean, since I've done all that work and I don't want anything to happen to it. And next I've got my Signo White Gel Pen, and I'm going to add some snow, mostly up in that sky area there. So you can get a closer look at that. And here's where I noticed that little ornament in the upper left-hand corner. I didn't color that in, so I'll do that here in a second. So I've got the rectangle A2 double stitch dies, and I'm going to cut that second largest die out of some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And for ink, I'm using the Tumbled Glass and the Uncharted Mariner. And I'll start off with that tumbled glass. I'm going to apply just a light layer of this across this entire panel. And this is the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock that I'm using here again. And I don't want this to be even. I'm just going to randomly apply some of that ink. Then I'll come in with that Uncharted Mariner and I'll add some areas of color. Again, I don't want this to be even. I just want some light and dark areas. And I'll just set this panel aside for a second. Since I have these inks out, I'm going to go back to that tumbled glass and add a little shadow around the edges, right up to that square frame. This is just going to bring our eyes right into the center here and keep the focus on the little scene. And then I'll grab that darker color and just add that right around the edges. Again, just framing this little panel. I'm just blending that out a little bit, just smoothing that out. So let's go back to this panel and work on our background. So I wanted it to have many layers of interest. So we've got that beautiful inking on the background. Now I'm just spattering this with a little bit of water. So I put some water on my glass media mat, I spattered that on, and then I'm just using a dry paper towel to blot that up. Now I want to add a layer of snow. So I've got my white gesso. Again, I'll place some of that on the glass media mat. I'll spritz that with a little bit of water, and then we'll spatter that on. And I am using a small paintbrush, trying to get some fairly tiny spatters. And this is going to create a beautiful snowy effect for the background. Again, I'm trying to build up layers of interest here. So I'll heat set that really quickly. And now we can grab this beautiful background stamp. This is from Spellbinders, and this is called the Windy Sky. But this could also be used for water, so keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and place this on the Mini Misty. I'm going to just tack it down with a little bit of temporary tape here just to hold that in place. And then I'm moving it out from the edges just a little bit so that I can line this up right over top, and it fits perfectly on this panel. So once I have that all set, I did prep that with my hand a little bit, just like I did earlier with the other stamp. And I'm starting off with that tumbled glass. I'm going to apply that ink all over. Now you can see how it goes on. There are some lines and some blotchy areas. So I'm going to go back to that blending brush that we used before, and I'm just going to smooth out that ink a little bit. So I'm just kind of using that brush just to even out the ink a little bit and take away any of those lines. I'll go back to that STAMPendable stamp pressing tool and I'll press that out really well. So now you can see that swirly background. I'm going to clean off the stamp, and then I'll apply that Uncharted Mariner just to darken up a few areas here. This is very light, so I am going to add a little bit of this darker color, but I don't want it all over. So I'm using my blending brush and I'm just going to tap on just a few areas. I'm adding some color, not to this entire background. Just a few little spots, and again with that tapping motion I can keep the ink on there without creating any lines or ridges. So I'm just going to tap that on and then press that out. Now you can do this as many times as you need to, so just apply ink slowly. You don't have to apply it all at once. Now you can see there I wanted to darken up that area there a little bit more, so I'm just grabbing some more ink and I'll just apply that and then take another look at it. So I continued to do this until I kind of got the shadowing and the dark spots here and there where I wanted them to be. Again, keeping this background very, very muted, and you can see how beautiful that is. Again, as water, this would also be gorgeous. So now that that's all set, I've got some black 100-pound cardstock. I'm going to cut that down to 3 inches by 3 inches, and that'll fit right behind this little scene. And then I'll create another panel for the back of that rectangular piece. So that'll just have a little, about a 1/4 inch around the edges. So that's how our card is going to layer up. Now let's create the card base. This cardstock measures 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I'm scoring at 5 1/2 inches. And that'll give us a top folding A2 size card, which will measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now we can go ahead and assemble the card. I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. This is a super strong adhesive, and by using the glue, it will allow me to move this around a little bit just to make sure I line up all of these panels nice and straight. And I think by adding the black frame behind each of these really makes this scene pop out. Now for the scene, I wanted to pop that up on my card. So let's go ahead and get this panel glued down. And then what I'm going to use is the Sizzix foam adhesive sheets. I'll just place a little bit of weight on top of that and let it dry. Now here are the foam adhesive sheets, and they're super thick. So you could add some foam mounting tape here, but I wanted to add an entire panel of adhesive behind here. And these sheets come in black and white, so the black is perfect for this project. I'm going to just mark with a pencil where I need to cut this. And again, this will pop up this panel, and it's really nice and solid. So as it goes through the mail, I don't have to worry about anything happening to it. I've got my Tim Holtz titanium shears. That'll make it really easy to cut through this adhesive. And this has sticky on both sides, so I'm going to remove the backing. From this side, I can go ahead and attach this panel. And then I can remove the backing again and attach it up towards the top of my card. I'm leaving the same distance around the 2 sides and the top. Now I've got some beautiful little embellishments. These are from Buttons Galore and More. And this little collection is called Ocean Waves, and it's got a nice combination of little baubles in here. There's a pearl, and then there's like a clear glass bead. and several other little items to choose from. So I'm going to kind of mix and match those. And I'm using my Marvy jewel picker to pick those up, and I'm gluing those down again with that Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. Now I've got my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen, and I'll go ahead and add some sparkle. I'm adding it to the rooftops, anywhere that it's snowy. I just thought that added a lot. It just really made everything pop. If you are adding it in places where you've already colored, you do want to be careful because it is a water-based glitter pen. So you don't want to move around all of that inking and shadowing that you've done. So if you are going to add it where you've already colored, just kind of dab it on. Just be careful with that. Oh, and here's where I did come back and color in that little ornament. I went back to those two plum colors and just blended that out just to finish that off. And then I added a little touch of glitter to that. So let's take a closer look at the finished card. And I really love this color combination. I just think it's very wintry looking, very magical looking. So, and then we've got that really subtle background. But again, keep in mind you could darken that up and make it much more prominent if you wanted to. You could even stamp and emboss that. That would be really pretty with some white embossing, and then do some inking over top. So you have a lot of options with this stamp set. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.